How to spot hesitation in any conversation. Have you ever noticed someone pause randomly mid-sentence, or after you've asked them a question, maybe you've dropped some information that was potentially controversial and their reaction was just different? Well, that tiny difference actually says a lot about what they're thinking. My name's Jack. I specialize in nonverbal communication, so how to read people, influence, shape perspectives, and regain control in high-stakes conversations. In this video, you'll learn a variety of different body language signals that show you when someone's feeling hesitant, why they're feeling hesitant, and what you can do about it. So what does hesitation actually mean? Well, typically it means hidden uncertainty. So when they're not 100% sure about something you said or a situation that's at hand. Resistance, when they just point blank and don't want to do something, but they haven't actually told you that yet. And thought processing, when they're unsure, they still need to make up their mind, but they're in that process still. Being able to spot this before they tell you gives you a massive advantage, a head start, and puts you on the front foot to be able to address any concerns or iron anything out before they tell you, which is the key. So let's move on to some specific scenarios where hesitance comes in different forms. First up, we have vocal hesitation. Put that in a cute little love heart. Lovely. So this usually comes in the forms of ums, hms, but you need to consider this with someone's baseline. So how was the conversation going up until that point? Was it smooth sailing? Were they doing this before? Are they doing it now? And if so, you have to dial in on what point that changed. The most common scenario that you'll see this happen is when people are trying to buy time. The amount of times I've had to ask an employee or a colleague about the status of a project we're working on, or just an update on something, and what was once a smooth, chill conversation all of a sudden gets stuttery, and you already know the answer before it leaves their mouth. But if you aren't trained and you don't know what you're looking for, maybe you don't catch it. So this is definitely one to look out for. Boom, lovely jubbly. Next up is I'm not going to do a heart around this one, there's not enough room, is the pause hesitation. So unexpected silence before answering or mid-sentence. Now this can be subtle, it doesn't have to be a super long pause for it to have a massive meaning, which is why you have to be on the lookout. So I had this on a sales call one time for my old content marketing agency, and it was all going well, great conversation, great dude, but it was around the time that I talked about the editing software we use, which is Premiere Pro, and I noticed a hesitation from him, actually accompanied with a bit of a stutter, going back to the last point. You have to look for clusters in body language. We'll get onto clusters in a moment. But yeah, so I realized that there was a sticking point around the editing software, which I thought was quite strange. But this gave me the ability to bring it up with him and address the concern before it came out later. So he was used to DaVinci Resolve, and for some reason it made him uncomfortable that we were using a different software that he wasn't familiar with, which is weird because he wasn't the one editing, but oh well. So yeah, the pause hesitation, keep a lookout for that, even when it is subtle. Cool, so the next one comes in the form of whole body hesitation. Often micro gestures like fidgeting, when people are kind of rubbing their fingers together. Also the other one where you're sitting on a chair, one leg's kind of elevated and it's bouncing up and down. Shifting weight, now this counts whether you're standing up or sitting down. So you're in one posture for the majority of the conversation, and then something is said. Again, body language, it all comes with timing. What was said in that moment when the change happened. So you're like this, and then, you see the discomfort. Next one, avoiding eye contact. Now, don't get it twisted. There's a lot of misconceptions around eye contact, that if you don't hold it for whatever reason, there's something dishonest or insincere about you, or you're lying about something you said. Honestly, not true. Again, comes back to baseline behavior. How are they, reacting before? Were they holding eye contact? But the majority of the time, when someone looks away for a short to medium term interval, it's actually when they're just processing information. They're trying to retrieve thoughts from their brain to either answer a question or give an opinion on something. So yeah, take that one with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Now, how to respond when you spot a sign of hesitation. The number one key is to not let them know you're aware of the hesitation, but you want to ask first and foremost a clarifying or an open question. Something that's going to give them an opportunity, open a door for them or a window to actually address it themselves without sounding or feeling like they're being grilled. The next one you're going to want to do is actually mirror them subtly. So if you don't already know, mirroring behavior is where you essentially copy what they're doing. Now, be careful not to do it too much. You might look weird. It's happened before to the best of us. But yeah, in general, the mirror principle builds trust and allows them to connect with you a lot better. You know, they think you're relatable, etc. And then the other one is to adjust your pacing. So maybe slow down your voice, adjust your cadence and match the kind of tempo that they are going at. Now, I'm talking mostly verbally here, but this also can be in regards to the speed of your body movements. Now, in general, slower, more choreographed and deliberate body movements are much more well received by the opposition. Fast, kind of twitchy body movements like this often gets people worried, it invokes stress, and it makes you look a little bit sketchy. Also, your tone of voice as well. If you have a really high-pitched tone, that also leads people into this kind of on-edge feeling. So when you spot hesitation, actually lower the tone of your voice. Right, boom, almost there. A couple pro tips to leave you with today. First and foremost, ventral orientation. I like these arrows. I'm going to start doing them more. Now, what do I mean by ventral orientation? So your ventral line is everything down the center of your body from the middle of the eyebrows right down to the moving on. The reason that this is important is that's what houses all of our most vital organs and our precious areas. Now, instinctively, primitively, we try and protect these organs. So whenever we see something we don't like, hear something we don't like, or we're in a situation that we don't want to be in, we actually cover them, we shield them, or we turn them towards a direction that isn't towards the threat. So if you're mostly straight on in a conversation, having a good old chin wag, and then something controversial was said, or you've said something you think might have offended them, you notice their body turn like this, even if their words say the same, if their body is now facing the exit or away from you, there's a good chance that they were offended or some sort of emotions were evoked from the thing you said. And the next one is the feet. Now, if I asked you what the most obvious part of the body was, the one that reveals the most about someone's true intentions, you would think, the eyes are the most readable. That's what most people answer with. And that's what I thought too, before I knew this. It's actually the feet. So naturally, day to day, we deceive people, not immorally, but we put on a front and we try and portray a person that we want to be seen, Maybe we're not happy, but we put on a smiling face, for example. Now, when we're trying to portray a certain picture or a certain image of ourselves, the first place we think to regulate is the face, right? Because it's the most viewed part of the body by the other person, and we kind of neglect the rest of us. So the last place people think to moderate is actually their feet, which is why it's such a great tell of someone's true intentions. So just keep an eye out on the feet. Similar to the previous point, if someone's not enjoying a conversation with you, or you've said something that might have potentially triggered them, then just keep an eye on their feet. If the feet turn towards the exit or away, that might be a sign that you need to go back and address that thing, or just don't mention that thing ever again. And then finally is behavior clusters. Mentioned that a little bit earlier, touched on it briefly, but that is the principle that just one body language cue on its own isn't always enough to gauge someone's true intentions or really what they're thinking. But what you want to look for is clusters. So everything that we've gone over today, you want to look for these things happening back to back. And yeah, behavior clusters are the way to go. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.